Indeed, they do on a Friday. Hello, good morning. I'm Babs Rose Ivy. You're listening to Love Babs Love Talk. I'm talking today. This hour is the talking hour. The hour before was with Jeff and I for Criminal Justice Insider, and we had Michael Kimmelman on. It was a wonderful conversation. I appreciated his new perspective on life. So I have Jennifer Heath in studio with me today.
Hello.
And she is, the president and CEO of United Way of Greater New Haven.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. It's great to be here.
So the last time I saw you, I was your hype girl for United Way Day of Caring.
You were?
And y'all had to feed a whole bunch of people.
We did. So we had this big crowd of volunteers that came together on a beautiful Saturday. And
wasn't that a great day?
It was so beautiful.
I know you had something to do with that day, ordering that day.
Well, I wish I could take credit for that. So we had this great group of volunteers came together at Martinez School, and you were there and got people excited because we had a little bit of a kickoff, let people know what was going on.
It was great.
And then we went into the volunteer projects, and most of the folks went into the gym, and that's where we packed meals.
Yes.
So we packed, that was my drum roll. We packed 37,000 meals that day.
Whoa.
Which was a record for the city of New Haven. That's the most meals that have been packed on one day in New Haven.
And these meals get distributed throughout
the community.
The community.
Yep. Food
because
pantries and
food
other
insecurity
places.
is a real thing.
It's a very real issue. Yep.
And you gave out some statistics, like one in
6 children in Connecticut go hungry.
So if you sit on the green and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you know one of those kids is hungry.
That's right.
Whew.
I know.
That's a hard thing to swallow, so to speak.
Yes.
Like that's challenging to know that in this land of riches,
so much that there are people
that
don't have food. Right. Right.
That's enough right there to make you give to the United Way so they continue this work.
Well, thank you. I mean, certainly that's one of the big issues we're focused on is making sure families have enough food.
And you have the best volunteers.
Don't we?
Those people were so, I have never seen so many
I know.
hyped up, eager volunteers.
They were so excited to be there.
And drove from like 2 hours away.
Well, they came from all over.
What?
A lot of them from right here. But people came from other towns too. All ages. So I tell you, Babs, you have not seen cute till you have seen a baby in a baby carrier on his mom's chest wearing a hairnet. Because, to pack all those meals, right, you have to be sanitary. So
I don't think anybody would mind baby hair.
You have to wear gloves. You have to wear a hairnet. And I look over, because I'm at one of the lines, packing, helping to pack. And I look over, and here is this little child, completely zonked out asleep wearing a hairnet.
Oh.
Yeah. So all ages. And people had such a good time. Now, it helped we had a DJ.
Yes,
so, there were some really good tunes.
And he was just here the other day.
Was he?
He was.
Yeah.
So this is nice. I got all my little United Way home people today.
But we had people coming up to us afterwards saying, the music was fantastic because people got into a rhythm and we're doing their different jobs kind of along the assembly line and beat to the music.
That's right.
It was really fun.
Music makes When I grew up, my mama would put on the music to clean the house.
Yeah.
And it would just make the house cleaning go by better.
I think it lifts your spirits. And so there was just this sense, I felt at least that there was such a sense of community. People were excited to be there.
Yeah.
People were happy to meet other people they didn't know.
Yes.
And then, some folks were there with people they did know and they enjoyed that kind of time with them as well. The music was fun, and then that sense of accomplishment at the end was like, oh my.
It was good.
Yeah.
And I loved the little competitiveness with people.
Oh yeah.
Like, they had the little factions of like the Yale people, but not to be confused with the Yale hospital people.
True.
Right? Because everybody had their little
And people were celebrating when they would finish packing a box. They're like, we're on box 10.
So you all have a history of getting really good volunteers who believe in the mission of what you do and want to be a part of it.
They do, and we are so thankful. The work wouldn't be possible without them.
Yes.
Truly.
So you 100 years.
I know. Can you believe it?
Oh my God, 100 years.
Yeah.
So now what do you got planned for the year?
Well,
for the next 100 years.
I know. So I want to get to that. But do you remember when I was here last time, you asked me, you were like, what was going on in 1920? I was kind of like, not completely sure. Do you remember that? I did some homework.
Oh,
I know.
No,
I
I
know,
didn't.
Babs.
I did not mean to put you on the
No,
spot.
that's okay. I wanted to be able to come back and show that I had done my assignment. So 1920. Can we start there?
Yes.
Just for a couple minutes?
Yes.
So a very interesting time in terms of what was going on kind of globally, which very much affected what was going on here. Is World War I had just ended.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big deal.
Yes.
And the world had kind of just come through the Spanish flu epidemic.
Yes.
Also a very
my goodness.
big deal, right? And in the United States, a couple of big amendments came into being. Yep. 18th Amendment, so Prohibition started in 1920.
Bring on the bathroom gin.
And the 19th Amendment, women got the right to vote in 1920.
Mm-hmm.
So the 1920 presidential election was the first election women could vote.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was some big stuff going on.
That was some big stuff.
Big stuff. I didn't know this. The ACLU was founded in 1920.
Oh, I did not know that either.
I did not either. And League of Women.
I thought they came
Voters.
later.
Nope, 1920.
Wow.
And League of Women Voters.
The 20s was happening.
I tell you, big year, big year. And then locally, did you know that Wilbercross High School, it was founded in 1920. Now, it had a different name in 1920.
Oh.
But it was founded, its predecessor school.
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm. So right here in New Haven was founded in 1920, and the University of New Haven was founded in 1920 as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they should be celebrating too. I got to go check and see what they're doing.
I know they have plans.
Oh, they
yeah.
These 100-year-old places.
I tell you.
Okay.
So couple of much lighter things, funny things about 1920. One was apparently, that's when Yale students started the Frisbee, throwing a pie plate.
Really?
And called it Frisbee because I think that was actually the name of the company, the pie plate company.
Oh.
And it took off both literally and figuratively, I guess.
Wow.
As a toy.
Now, I did not know that.
So that's one of New Haven's firsts, like when you learn about things that happened first in New Haven.
Oh, so we get credit for that.
We get credit for the Frisbee.
I always thought it was like a California thing.
No.
Okay.
Right here in New Haven, 1920. And then this one actually really made me laugh. In 1920, the U.S. Postal Service came out with a regulation that said you could not mail children parcel post.
What?
Yeah, so before then,
like they
hadn't had really strict rules about what could be mailed.
So people were mailing kids?
Yes, people put stamps on their coats and sent them to relatives.
So in lieu of buying a ticket for a tray?
It was cheaper to send them parcel post than it was to buy a train ticket.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? TCF would be all over that. People would be locked up.
So they came out with the regulation in 1920 that you couldn't.
Can you imagine? These people are like, why are these children in this compartment?
Mail truck or mail car or
With an address, please deliver to.
I know. So that one made me laugh, I have to say.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That was, see, laws. There's a reason why we have.
Sometimes there are things you don't realize you have to actually
my God.
put into law.
I know. It's funny now. 100 years ago, people were actually doing that.
They were.
So much so that they had okay, we got to put a stop to this.
Right.
This is getting ridiculous.
Well, and it sounded like from what I was looking at that because it was so new and people were trying to figure out what could be mailed and what couldn't. I mean, they tried mailing all sorts of things.
But to be so trusting to put your kid.
Right. Well, it did say, just to be fair, it did say in the historical stuff I read that most times they knew their postman really well. And it was maybe a relative. And so, they took the child to the next place, which was a relative. It wasn't like they just sent them off to a stranger, but still.
Wow. That's
Isn't that funny?
Yes.
I know.
Well,
so that's the tidbit for today.
You've done some good homework.
I tell you. So, in terms of United Way, like we've been spending the last 100 years really focused on how to make lives better right here in Greater New Haven. So, we serve a 12-town region.
Yes.
And there are more than 400,000 people in the region that we serve.
Oh, gosh.
And what's interesting, actually, is in 1920, the population of New Haven was larger than it is today.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
That I did not know.
Yeah. By a little bit. But But so we serve this 12-town region, and all along we've really been focused on how do you improve people's lives, and obviously volunteers have been a big part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've done a lot of work focusing on how do you improve situations for children, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's around education, whether it's around health. How do you make sure families are stable? You know, they have safe, affordable housing and what they need in terms of access to jobs. And then making sure that people have access to health care and all the other things that make them
healthy. That's a
healthy.
lot, Jennifer. Like, how do you prioritize and discern how to help, where to help, who to help?
So a lot of that comes from really talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
So it really comes from talking to people in our community about what they see as both priorities around needs and what their aspirations are, what they want for the community. We look at data. I mean, we look at data that comes out from the census. We look at data. Actually, Data Haven just came out with their new community well-being report, which pulls together information from lots of different places. It's good. It would be great for you to talk to Mark Abraham and have him talk more about what they've found.
I think I will.
In that report. It's eye-opening. And so, we look at that kind of information as well, but we really care about what people think. And so if I can just put in a plug, if people have ideas about things that they think are important, want to suggest, if they want to get involved as a volunteer or helping us think through our 100th, you can go to our website and scroll down to the bottom and put in your email address, and you'll be able to fill out a form that tells us kind of what you care about, what issues, and then you'll get into our regular email stream of communications where we'll be able to tell people more about the ways they can get connected.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, but you guys are good at talking with people. Now, do people invite you all to the table? Are you invited to these tables where people are having discussions about what goes on in Greater New Haven?
A lot of them. Probably not all of them. There are a lot of tables.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot.
There are a lot of tables. But yes, I mean, we're at a bunch of them. And in terms of prioritizing, I mean, we really work with groups of volunteers in our board to prioritize.
How big is your board?
About 22 people.
That's a big board.
It is a big board.
And how often do they meet?
8 times a year.
Okay. That's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. But they have some, I mean, the times change. What you probably focused on 5 years ago looks different than what it looks like now.
Yes.
Or maybe not. I don't know.
That's interesting. So let's think about, the years are a little bit of a blur. We're in 2019. So that was 2014. So yeah, I would say one of the things that's different is that United Way for a long time has been in the space of trying to meet people's immediate needs, around food and shelter. And I would say back in 2014, one of the things that changed for us is that while certainly those were still really important, we were thinking about not only how do you meet people's immediate needs right now? When people don't have a place to be, they need shelter. If people don't have food, they need food.
Yes.
But how do you also think about long-term solutions?
Okay.
Because ultimately, I would, based on conversations I've had with people, is that people want to make sure that for the long term, we are creating a community where people can really have opportunity and live into their potential.
Yeah.
I mean, I am a firm believer, every one of us has so much potential, and I don't want to leave any of it on the table.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure we're creating the kinds of opportunities and structures that allow people to go from, I need this help right now, to longer term, I'm going to be able to accomplish my goals for myself.
Yeah. And if you can help remove the barrier of food and housing,
right.
You don't know what greatness could rise up out of that if we don't.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, this is why I get so frustrated with the immigration conversation. You don't know what you don't. I mean,
people are going to be able to contribute.
Yes.
I mean, I so believe that.
But America's built on immigrants contributing.
Our strength,
so,
right?
Are we forgetting that? Like,
right.
There's somebody out there on those lines who has the cure for so many things.
Right. We just want to tap into it and give people the opportunity.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So as we were thinking about, okay, it's really important to be able to meet people's immediate needs. We also were talking a lot about how do you change how services are delivered so that you get to the long-term issues, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things we did starting about 5 or so years ago was really working with all of the community organizations that touch homelessness. And they actually,
Are there that many?
There are actually. I mean, if you think about
I know
it,
the big ones. Like I know.
well, there's the shelters.
Yeah, I know the shelters.
And then there are housing providers. And then there's the health system.
And
right? Mental health, physical health. Oh, they're very affected.
They're in the housing business too?
No, they're not in housing, but they serve people who are homeless.
Oh, yes.
Right. So if you think about it, you've got food providers, you've got a whole range of organizations that touch this population.
Yes.
And so there were changes at the federal level. So under President Obama, there was a big push to say, we don't want to just manage homelessness. We want to end homelessness. And the way to do that is to come together and work together differently. So that was a big federal message. And they were pushing federal dollars differently. The state bought into that same message. And so here locally, the providers were saying, we want to tackle this work differently and we need help to do that. And so came to United Way and said, you know us, we're in relationship with you because you have been helping to support this notion of shelter for a long time. Could you help us think through how we could do this work differently? And so starting in 2014, we really helped them come together for them to talk about how would we do our work differently if we had the opportunity to rethink this. How would we do things differently? So how would we really understand what people's needs are and then match services to their needs?
But y'all are good at that.
I do think that's a strength.
I mean, I think that's a real strength of the United Way to be able to do that. And I don't think anybody else can do it.
I think we are in a unique position. I mean, we're regional for one thing. We are in this space where we have lots of relationships in history, which helps to have these conversations.
100 years.
100 years of it. And because we are not direct service providers, we are able to do some of that facilitation and convening and bringing people together for conversations without having that same, like, we have to,
and the providers can't do it. They can't do the convening because they're providing.
Correct. Which is
and they don't have
essential.
the manpower and the wherewithal. Because I ran nonprofit. And you can't try to think about things while you're doing the thing.
It's
you need
really
somebody
hard.
to like run that circus for you so you can step into it.
Correct.
Not so much create it.
Right.
So I think that's a strength of the United Way to be able to do that.
I do too. I see that as a really valuable role that we play.
Yes. No, I do too.
Yeah.
And I know these nonprofits are grateful for it because they, these are, because, those kinds of things are like pie in the sky things. Or we want to be able to sort of, have a conversation, bring people together, facilitate, and talk about how we can do this better. Right. But while you serving food and raising money,
you can't do all of that at the same time. You're absolutely right.
You can't do it.
You're right.
Unless you don't want to staff.
Right.
They'll quit, run out, Right. So that is a great thing.
So I'd say that's one big difference over the last, 5 to 7 years is that we've moved, I think, more intentionally into that role.
Yeah. I think that's a good place to be in, particularly for an organization like yours that has seen things come and go,
right,
and seen priorities at the federal level shift and change, seen things get funded and defunded.
Right.
You all see that stuff.
We do.
Very, very closely.
And, one of the things we're also really trying to do is make sure when there are opportunities that, can be regional and would involve collaboration and lots of partners, can we draw those resources down to benefit the community?
That's good.
So we just had an exciting thing happen. We partnered with the town of Guilford to apply for some state funding that will help address homelessness issues across the region.
Wow.
I know.
Guilford.
And they were a very willing partner, and we were so excited to work with them. And these resources are going to benefit the entire region.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. But you know what? For our own economic survival and community growth, we have to go across these lines, right? I mean, we have
I
to
think
do it.
so. I think there are lots of opportunities for us to think differently about how we do that work. And,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things we talk about a lot is trying to break down silos. And
Oh,
those, because people have the ways they want to do things, or maybe their funding sources say you should do things a certain way. And it's hard sometimes to break out of that and think about how to coordinate with another organization. And I would say the same is true probably for our towns, right?
mm-hmm.
Like think about what we could do together and create more impact
Yeah.
more efficiently.
Yeah. Because I remember when I was an early city legislator, and I remember I was trying to work with surrounding cities and towns, like immediate surrounding cities and towns like East Haven, West Haven, to help us address how do we deal with homelessness. Now this was, however long ago I was an
Right.
alderman.
Right.
And, because we were seeing that a lot of the homeless population weren't really necessarily New Haveners, but they were coming from, because New Haven had the resources,
services.
right? The
Right.
services.
Right.
And how do we get these cities and towns to sort of help us provide better?
Right.
That was the conversation,
Yep.
And I just saw that. And I remember Andrea Brooks and I took this on. We started with West Haven. We started talking with North Haven and East Haven about, look, y'all,
Right.
y'all
It's a
have to help
regional
us.
thing.
Yes.
It's a regional thing.
But you say regional, people get a little,
I know they get a little itchy
because we're not regional.
minded.
Yes.
I know. But I think part of the conversation we try to have too is to help people see how their future, their well-being is linked to what happens other places.
Yeah.
I mean, we really are interconnected.
We are.
We are.
I mean, if you don't even live here, but if you live somewhere else and you work here, you're connected.
You are connected.
You have to be
you think about,
concerned.
there are a lot of good jobs in New Haven. I mean,
Yeah.
New Haven's a real engine for this region. I mean, you look at our demographics. Like, as a region, we're projecting we'll get older.
Mm-hmm.
Who's bucking that trend? New Haven.
Yeah.
Attracting younger people. I mean, New Haven it's a great place, and I think that there are so many strengths here. We want to build on those, and also address where things aren't as good as we would want them to.
Yeah.
Be.
But you know what? I think a city this size, anybody can jump in. This is what I love about the city, and I've lived other places and gone other places around the world. But what I love about this city, unlike a lot of other cities, that any given point you could jump in and make a difference.
Yes.
You as an individual,
that's right,
can
you
jump
can do
in
something.
And make a difference immediately.
Right. I know. One of the things. So I'm not a native, Connecticut native, and I remember when I moved here and then had been here for a little while, I was like, this is the size of place you can get your arms around.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you think about wanting to make a difference, like you were saying. It feels like it's got the size, but it's also got the spirit, I think.
Yeah. Like people, everybody wants to help. Everybody's like, okay, I've got an idea.
Right.
And can call you up and say, do you want to be a part of this? Or we need somebody, or somebody will say, go talk to Jennifer Heath.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I like that kind of intimate connection to people in this town that I don't see in other places,
Yeah.
I mean, you certainly can't. I mean, New York is a big place. There's no intimacy unless you're in a silo with people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can wrap my arms around this whole city at any given time.
Right.
You can't do that in New York.
No.
I mean, no, because you got boroughs and da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
You just can't do it. So it's a wonderful thing to sort of be able to say, oh, you know what? If you go call Jennifer Heath over at United Way, I bet you she has some answers for you, or she could point you in the right direction. It's that kind of
It is.
love for this city that happens that makes it go.
And I have found that people are genuinely interested in helping.
Yeah.
They really, I think people really care,
Yeah.
which is wonderful. And, that's part of what we're trying to tap into with, so you asked what we're up to for our 100th. And, one of those things is really thinking about how do we offer even more volunteer opportunities? Because again, as we're talking to people, one of the themes that seems to be coming out a lot is people are talking about the value of having an organization that's a connector.
Yes.
So whether that's about connecting all of the different community organizations that are doing a particular kind of work, like I was talking about with homelessness, or whether that's around connecting people to people because, they just want to know their neighbors, in a different way or better, or connecting people to volunteerism and ways to give back.
Yeah.
So, that's one of the themes that seems to be bubbling up quite a bit from some of our conversations with folks. And so we are really thinking hard about some of the different kinds of ways to blow out our volunteerism.
And I think that's a good idea. And you know what else for me? That you're trusted. Do you know what I mean? Like if somebody says United Way, they already know there's some trust there. They're not signing up for some foolishness.
Right.
Some fly-by-night thing.
And I think that's where our history helps, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've been here a long time.
So I think people feel confident when they're like, if I'm going to volunteer for some United Way driven thing, I know the standard of quality is going to be such that I'm going to have a good experience. I'm going to do some good, and I'm going to leave feeling like, okay, I've accomplished something.
Well, and that's our goal, with every activity that we do, because we know people's time is precious. So we want to make sure it's a really good use of people's time.
And everybody's busy.
Things are well organized, and you want to feel like it's making a difference.
Yeah.
People are not really interested in make work.
Yes. No, but I love a well-organized wheel. And this is why the Day of Caring was so fun for me. That it was a well-oiled machine.
It was.
You weren't asking people to come in like, okay, let's figure out how to do this.
Right. Right. No, I mean, it was really clear. Like, this is what you do. People got little, enough training right on the spot to then be able to do their piece of the job, and it all worked.
Yes.
It's always nice.
And it didn't take all day.
No, people were done by noon.
Yes. Yeah. And it was a Saturday.
It was.
Which is, prime time.
It was prime time. And I was so happy to be able to make that kind of difference in that amount of time.
So now do you up the ante next year? Do you push the envelope even further?
We're trying. That's what we're thinking about. Yeah.
I guess you have to. You got to break your own record.
That's right. We have to break our own record. It's a big year. It's a big milestone. So we want to do a bunch of different things to kind of commemorate that. And one of them is, as I said, to do more volunteer work. And we're actually already talking about next year's Day of Caring. And
I'm sure.
How to make that even bigger. So, one of the kind of crazy ideas we've been throwing around is this year we packed 37,000 meals. Wouldn't it be nice to do a number that started with 100?
Oh.
Like 100,000 meals.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah.
Whoa. So, that would be incredible. And you guys got good press, too.
We did. We
got really good press.
We did. I was out there kind of early.
Yeah. It was really good press. I was impressed.
Yeah, they did a nice job. They stayed all morning.
They did. And they captured I caught it. I went online and saw, they talked to some of everybody.
I know.
It was lovely
like
to
little
see
girl.
that. Yes. Because oftentimes kids get left out of the conversation around these kinds of volunteer efforts.
Right.
And so it was nice that they.
I was so excited people brought their kids.
Yes.
I mean, think about.
But that's how you learn service, right?
Exactly, to get to do that with your mom or your dad and see them setting that example right in front of you and feeling like you're helping your community. I think that's terrific.
Yes. And so God bless those people. Because when I was a kid, my mother brought us to walkathons and feeding people and that whole. So I grew up seeing that as part of my life, right?
That's what it means to be in community. I
think. Like you just do that, right? So it's not a foreign sort of thing,
Right.
So yeah.
So yeah, we have big plans for Day of Caring. We're talking about some other things that we can do. They aren't quite fully formed yet, but in terms of the summer, in terms of the summer. So yeah, we're excited.
I like it. So when you get up in the morning, you start your day.
Yep.
And because you must love this work.
I do.
You must love it because you've been doing it
a long time,
and you are committed to it. So you get up in the day, you start your day. What do you do? What's your first thing?
Well, I wish I could tell you something really healthy, like I meditate. No, I have visions of doing that. I have to say, I feel
me
like,
too, girl. Me too.
I feel like I've gotten into a little bit of bad habit. Because actually, what I do first, in addition to drinking tea, which I'm not saying that's a bad habit, but I fix a cup of tea. And I read the newspaper
Okay.
which, I think it's healthy to be informed.
A well-informed person
but
makes a difference.
Yes, but sometimes it can be
Oh,
a
yeah.
little overwhelming.
Yeah, it could
too.
daunt. Yeah, girl.
Yeah.
Don't you, I work in news, I know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So
All right.
that's how I start my day. That, and I'm actually I've gotten slightly addicted to a word puzzle.
That's good for your brain.
So I usually do that for a little while too.
That's good for your brain, Jennifer. Everything that I'm reading now to stave off Alzheimer's and aging and all that word puzzles
Fingers crossed.
and all those kinds of things. I got a big one. Like I got the big print, right? Because I need the I'm at the place where I need the large print. So I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm there. I'm like, okay, I'm good with that. So
and then it's getting ready and fixing breakfast and making sure kids have breakfast and everything they need to be able to get out the door.
That's good.
Yeah.
So now, in your capacity as a president,
yes.
So what kinds of things do you do to sort of sharpen your skills to give you what you need? Because you're a woman leading a high-profile organization.
Yep.
Right. And so eyes are on you all the time, and you have to sort of stay on top of your game. So what are some of the things that you do professional development wise to sort of continue to do this work?
Well, I try to take advantage of learning opportunities that come out from United Way.
Oh, good.
So whether not a whole lot of that lately has been like traveling somewhere. It's more been webinars and meetings that seem to happen through Zoom and things like that.
Yes, this is a new world.
It's the new world, right? But also through other entities that offer those kinds of learning opportunities. Taking advantage of those, which is great. I try to read, a lot about what's going on, both in our community and in the country, but learning from other places, like what's working well, what research says about what's effective, what's not. So I try to stay up to date on different things like that. And then, you couldn't do it without your friends, right? Your network.
Yeah.
People that you're able to just let your hair down and
that's important when you operate at this level, right? I was listening to I just finished Shonda Rhimes' book, Year of Yes.
That was a great book.
I listened to it on Audible.
Okay.
And I was so taken aback by how she's at the top of her game, and her sister had said to her, "You don't say yes to anything. You're at the top,
right?
And you're not doing any of the things that people would do when they get to the
right."
And she had to think about that.
She did. And then she made that really bold commitment and scared herself to death, right?
Like
saying yes to things.
Saying yes to things.
Like speaking, going to places and speaking.
Yes.
And,
And I'm fascinated. I don't know if that's a uniquely woman kind of thing.
It strikes me as being more likely.
Yeah. I'm thinking that too, because I think oftentimes women are always questioning their right to be in spaces.
Correct.
Right. And so
am I good enough?
Yeah, am I good enough? That imposter syndrome, that's very real for women.
My sense doesn't tend to affect men the same way.
No, I don't. Men wake up and say, I want to do this, and that, and the other thing, and they go do it. Yeah. I used to tell the story when I was running organizations. When I go on a business trip, I have to have a list and all the things in place. When my husband goes on a trip, he's like, leaves. "Oh, bye." Kisses the kids, and out the door he goes.
No, I know. I mean, they're colleagues of mine, women, talk about exactly like when they leave to go for a conference or meeting or whatever it is that's out of town. They've like left the meals all packaged and in the refrigerator and the list of this is what has to happen. So it's a lot.
It is a lot, and I am fascinated by those kinds of roles, that the duality of women's lives.
Yeah.
And I think it's I think it's challenging when women want to reach the high levels of whatever their field is, the sacrifice and the things that have to happen to sort of to do that. Yeah. I mean, you've come through the United Way.
I have.
Up the ranks.
Right.
And I'm sure at every stage you had to okay. Do I want to be doing this?
Right.
Can I do this? Should I be doing this on top of wanting to have a family?
Right.
all these things.
And, it absolutely for me, it has absolutely required having a support network. And that has included, my family at home.
Mm-hmm.
That's included, my extended family. And that's included friends and colleagues.
Yes.
Right? I mean, it absolutely requires that.
Mm-hmm. And so, what advice would you give young women who are, because these young women, these millennial women are coming up, and they believe that they could have it all. They want to have it all.
Right.
I don't know what all is, but they want to have it all.
Yeah.
And so, just having a conversation about leadership and what's required for leadership.
I think so much of it, for me at least, so much of it has been relationship based.
Mm-hmm.
So it's finding, ways to connect with people and have enough of a human and genuine connection that that you can go back to that person, and whether it's asking for advice or help.
Mm-hmm.
There's a line actually so we do a video, United Way does, every year to kind of talk about the work that we do. You saw it at
Yes. It was so.
Yeah.
I felt like church.
It did feel like church in the best possible way. And there's a line in there that says, hope is not a one-man band. None of us are self-taught or self-made.
Mm.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
Right. And so, we do really need to be able to depend on each other. And I think one of the ways you create, I would say this to any young person, male or female, the way you create the ability to have folks like that in your life is to build good relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And that means, being authentic and, excuse me, and caring and spending time really connecting with people.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. I think that's a good answer.
And know that it's still challenging, right? Because there's always a lot to juggle.
There is.
Yeah.
And running an organization like the United Way of Greater New Haven is I don't think it's a walk in the park. Like, I think you have your challenges just like any other organization.
We do.
But 100 years is nothing to sneeze at.
Right. No, I'm really proud of what we're able to do in the community, and one of the challenges that I carry around with me all the time is we want to be doing more. Mm-hmm. I want us to be doing more. Mm-hmm. And we're just, there are limits to the resources, and so
yeah,
you can't do everything you want to do.
So in the next 100 years, Jennifer, what would you like to see off the plate of the United Way?
You mean in terms of not doing?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like, what would you like to see eradicated or gone, or, no longer an issue for the United Way to sort of put their hands on?
In my really, really bold moments, I would say poverty.
That's interesting. Because that poverty really is the catalyst for a lot of these ills.
Right. I mean, you think about folks struggling to, afford enough food. We were talking about that earlier. Kids going hungry. Think about families not having a place to live. Mm-hmm. Think about the emotional distress that causes on top of, just the physical effects of that, right? I mean, feeling like you don't know what's happening day to day for yourself or your family, and the toll that takes on you.
Yeah.
And that notion of people being able to live into their potential. When you are faced with those kinds of challenges day in and day out, how can you think about your long-term goals in a way that makes it feel reachable? Mm-hmm. It's very hard. So I would love to be able to say that we had tackled that one and ended it.
So is there anything out there that you all haven't put your hands on? Do y'all have a reentry component or reentry conversation?
Yeah,
or?
Yes, we've been in that space some. Mm-hmm. We've had a pretty long-standing partnership with Emerge around their work on reentry. And actually, one of the interesting things that has come out of that, and now growing, is we've been part of this effort to help parents and childcare providers and teachers better understand child development and what that means in terms of when particularly young children who aren't completely verbal yet, what do they need? What does their behavior signify that they need from the adults in their lives? And even as they get older and are verbal, like what's their behavior? What's what they're saying? What does that really tell you? And so we've been part of bringing this effort more broadly to Greater New Haven, which is this. It's a kind of like a series of lessons around parenting that really focuses on how to create strong relationships with your child.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the places that we've done that work has been Emerge, and they've used the curriculum with the guys that are in their program, and they're now actually because it's worked so well there, we're trying it actually in prison with guys before their release.
Wow.
Because a lot of it is really about thinking about how you yourself were parented in relationship with people,
mm-hmm.
and what kind of relationship you want to have
with,
children and others in your life, and what it means to have a strong, healthy relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think everybody can benefit from thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the ideas was, rather than waiting until
they
folks
get
are
out,
released, start the conversation earlier.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. So that's just started it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd like to hear more about that the next time you come back.
Okay, well, I'll have more to tell because it's just starting.
It's just starting, but that's a good, because I was just curious because reentry is a big deal right now.
It is.
Like everybody's talking about it. And Connecticut has really done a great job of starting to reduce the numbers of people incarcerated. We're not there yet, but we're starting to sort of see the first data around reducing those numbers. And hopefully closing more facilities, So I was just wondering if United Way had a hand in that, because it's it's on the cutting edge of where everybody else is having these conversations.
Right. And certainly as you think about what makes a difference for people, I'll just come back to it. I feel a little bit like a broken record, but having healthy, strong relationships,
mm-hmm.
right? And if people have that and have opportunity, I think we could go a long way to not needing the prison space, and or if folks do find themselves in that situation and then come out, helping to make sure they don't go back in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's a big deal.
Right.
So, I'm gonna go back to my question of what out there, Jennifer, that you see that you all are not tackling, but you're like, you know what? If I had some unlimited resources, right. I would go and look at or deal with X.
Those are fun questions. So, one of the things I would say is that, and this kind of builds off of work we're already doing, but I'd love to blow it out. So 2 things, actually. One is, I feel really proud of the work that the community's done around homelessness in terms of connecting more people to housing.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that for people to be able to maintain housing over the long term, they need income. So this notion of how do you create more paths for people to jobs that allow them to support their families. And, I think it's about the jobs that are available, about the skills that are needed for those jobs. It's about transportation and other kinds of supports that people need, like childcare, to be able to be employed and manage all the other aspects of their lives. And I would love to move more into that space, because I think that for our long-term kind of vitality as a community, that's one of the keys.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And then the other is, thinking about particularly young children. So early childhood's a big area for me. I've done a lot of work in that space over the years. And, we just know so much about what a difference it makes when you invest in young children,
mm-hmm.
In terms of their brain development and getting them on that great path for life. And I would love to make sure that there's more high quality early care and education for infants and toddlers.
Yeah.
There's only enough care right now for 18% of the infants and toddlers in our area. So you think about what children,
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's very low. It's better for preschool age kids.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's spaces for about 64% of preschool age kids. And not every family is going to want their child to be in, a formal program. But for families who do, it's still really hard to find.
It is.
For infants and toddlers, and it's very expensive.
It is.
Costs more than college.
Listen, I remember when my babies were little and trying to find spaces for them, that was quality,
right?
That met my standards of quality.
Right.
And then, because you could hire a babysitter, of course, but if you want to enrich brains and the ability to learn and all that kind of stuff, you need a high quality, high functioning program.
And I think that is actually an investment we should be making as a country.
Yeah.
And as a state.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love for it to really take off and happen here. I think the issue is it's something that it needs public investment.
Yeah. Yeah.
To do it
political will.
Right. Broad scale.
Yeah. But that's a good wish list.
Yeah. So those are probably the top of my list. But just to bring it full circle, this notion of hunger, right? I would love for us to be able to say that no one's hungry.
Wow.
Going forward.
Oh my Lord.
Right.
That would be an amazing thing if we could say that. There's no one hungry in Connecticut.
Right.
Thank you, Jennifer Heath.
You're welcome. Thanks,
I'm looking
Babs.
forward to the celebration for the 100 years. I'm really going to pay attention to what y'all do and invite me to stuff. I'll come.
I will, and I would love to come back.
Yes.
And maybe we could talk at least a couple more times next year.
I hope so.
Roll things out and talk about them. That would be terrific.
Please know that you have a standing invitation.
Thank you very
much. And the people that curate your calendar, put her in the calendar to come back and talk to me several times in 2020 so we can make this a United Way station.
That sounds great.
Thank you, Jennifer Heath. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too.
All right, Harry, I'm going to close us out. Thank you. I'll see y'all. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Shama